Well, Union Solidarity regularly compares banking fees, and it's part of the push to keep banks accountable for their fees. We're now joined by the union's Paul Joubert. Thank you for joining us, Paul. So this relates to the fees that banks can charge one another, but in no way are they obliged to drop fees for consumers. Can we start with that?
No, certainly not. That's right. And just something you just mentioned just now, the fee that the Reserve Bank now mandates that the banks must charge each other for cashback transactions is actually higher than the fees that some banks charge consumers for those transactions at the moment. So
is that if you walk into a bank and
no,
you do
that's
a cash
if you
withdrawal?
walk into, say, a Pick n Pay or a Checkers and you get cash at the till point.
You're saying it's more expensive than if you walk into a bank, or
No,
than if
I'm
you
saying
use an ATM?
I'm saying the fee, the interchange fee. That's now mandated at R1.11 is actually higher than the fee that some banks charge consumers for doing that right now.
Sure.
So that might lead to even an increase in those charges, or the bank has to take a little bit of a loss if the supermarket, for example, where this is done, uses a different bank from the client.
Yeah. There are other indications, maybe, help me, that it may not make much of a difference. The basic fee, so this is now if you're withdrawing from an ATM, but you've got the wrong bank card, your bank card is not matched to the ATM. The basic fee, it looks like it goes up slightly to almost R3.50, but then there's a lower percentage on the actual amount that you withdraw. So the percentage goes from 0.65 to 0.53. It sounds small, but I guess on a big scale it could make a difference.
Well, yes, on a big scale, yes, but in a normal consumer's budget, even if it is passed through, it will not make any noticeable difference. Now we must remember this comes from the inquiry that started in 2006, ended in 2008. Then they started this process in 2011, it's now 2014, and now for the first time we're seeing some sort of outcome of that process. In the meantime, just through more consumer activism, there's already been significant decreases in general bank charges. We shouldn't wait for the regulators to do things. Consumers are the best regulators themselves. That is what the market is there for.
It has taken a long time, you're right. It does seem, though, that it'll help smaller banks. So maybe it won't help consumers. It'll help smaller banks because then they don't have to go and put up ATMs everywhere because they won't be liable for those fees. But could that discourage the bigger banks from investing in that infrastructure? Because I hate it when you can't find an ATM.
Yes, well, I still have to look into this in all detail. Not all of the detail has been released yet, but that might happen. At least these changes in the way people can transact mean that you need cash less these days than you might have done before in many cases.
And you do have the retailers who can
Yes.
give you cash as well.
That's another thing. That's been like that for many years now. Some people just, I don't know, still prefer the ATM.
Have the retailers come to the party, do you think, though?
Yes, certainly.
They're all willing to do it?
Yes. They're all doing it.
Yeah.
Not all of them, but most of the big ones at least. They're doing it as we speak. For years and years, they've already been doing it.
I was thinking about something because there are declines in transactions if you want a balance inquiry or if you go to an ATM and that's declined. In line with our Consumer Act, with all this transparency, I don't think that people even know that you get charged if there's a decline or if you just want a statement. Do you think that they're aware? Should there be some sort of warning?
Yes, well, what we've said for many years now, Solidarity, is one thing that's easy for banks to do. It's not as easy to do that if it's another bank, if say, an ABSA client is using a Nedbank ATM. But if it's a Nedbank client using a Nedbank ATM, the ATM can display all those charges. Just change that system a little bit.
Or at least tell you there's a charge.
I mean, yes, tell you that there will be a charge, or tell you even what the charge will be. It can't be that difficult. At least these days, so many people are going to the bundle type accounts where you pay a fixed monthly fee and then most things are included, at least on those accounts. Most of those things like declined transactions and balance inquiries and so on are all included in that fee, so at least those clients don't get charged.
All right, Paul, so what's coming out is these latest changes to interbank fees, probably not going to help consumers, but very quickly you are preparing your next report that compares fees charged by different banks. Can you give us a hint and just give us a quick overview of how things have changed because of the consumer activism that you're talking about?
Yes, well, what we saw first of all was the big change occurred really in 2011 and 2012, specifically with Absa and Standard Bank and to some extent Nedbank, who were very expensive at that time, those three banks, and they have brought their fees down significantly. If you're with one of those banks and you haven't moved to one of the newer type accounts from them, you're paying too much and you don't have to.
Okay.
But that's a big change we've seen, and also that change I mentioned to the bundle type accounts. Now Capitec's the odd one out there. They say no, bundles are not for them. You get charged for every transaction, but it's a very low fee, so it's very it's not a big charge at the end of the month.
All right, well, I hope we can talk to you when that report does come out, and thank you for joining us this evening. Your Solidarity's Paul Joubert, Senior Researcher at Solidarity.